now, from the makers of cold water Omo...
John Steed bent down and examined the body of Yule, the stockbroker.
Look, Mrs. Peel, the waistcoat pocket.
Ripped away completely.
Yes. He was planning to come to dinner at Henry Boardman's, but he was dressing, evening dress.
He's been dead about 3 hours, about the time we started dinner. So that eliminates 3 suspects.
Boardman left us to make a phone call, remember?
You think he might have been calling one of his minions?
Well, it's quite possible.
What do you make of the Boardmans?
Bluff, conservative, die-hard traditionalist. Now, she... attractive, intelligent, expensive...
And as cold as ice.
And promiscuous.
Promiscuous?
Go beyond that, my lips are sealed. After all, a true gentleman...
A true gentleman shouldn't know of a lady's promiscuity.
Odd, though. Despite the air of studied wealth, I get the impression that the Boardmans are...
Coming down in the world?
Objet d'art diminishing rapidly. No country house. It doesn't make sense. If Boardman's involved, then why send me to Yule? I mean, why put me onto his own broker?
Because he knew Yule would report back to him?
Yes. Yes, you could have just hit it, Mrs. Peel. Obviously, he did report back, and it caused his death, didn't it?
The Avengers. John Steed and Emma Peel, The Avengers. Is the wonderful new fabric conditioner that not only softens but actually rinses out hardness, rinses in a new kind of softness. Comfort leaves your wash refreshingly young and bouncy again. Just a little comfort in the final rinse gives a lot of comfort to your wash.
Softness is a thing called comfort.
To keep your complexion soft and smooth, choose Lux with its creamy, moisturizing lather and precious perfume. Lux, a beauty treatment as you bathe.
Episode 4 of this story, in which John Steed and Emma Peel continue to dabble in high finance, unaware that someone in the city is preparing yet again to dial a deadly number. John Steed, leaving Henry Boardman's exclusive dinner party, had had a most unpleasant experience in the garage at the base to the penthouse. 2 black leather-coated thugs on motorcycles had tried to run him down. One of them had died when his bike crashed into a packing case. The other had got away. Mrs. Peel, arriving on the scene, was able to give a little sympathy to Steed and suggested that they went back upstairs to the Boardmans. Steed preferred a quick visit to his broker, Brian Frederick Yule. Yule was dead. It seemed he'd died in exactly the same way as Todhunter. Steed had a lot to think about.
A lot to think about, Mrs. Peel.
Including Ruth Boardman?
How did you guess?
Well, you must have some evidence of her promiscuity. Other than first-hand experience, of course.
Oh, you flatter me. Yes, ever since I met her, I've been wondering where I'd seen her before. It was when I was lunching in the bar of the Bull and Bear. She was there, drinking with Ben Jaeger. She left before I went over to Jaeger. Strange. Odd relationship.
Well, I can't think why. If Jaeger's one of Boardman's best clients, then it would be natural they should meet somewhere sometime.
Yet their attitude to each other seemed to be more than friendly, shall we say? I'd be prepared to bet that Henry Boardman doesn't know a darn thing about it. Well, it's just another thread in the mysterious tapestry. We'll both meet them all again very shortly.
Oh? When?
This wine tasting do we've both been invited to in the cellars of the bank, remember? I'm quite looking forward to that.
The atmosphere in the wine cellars that Tuesday night was rather like a church. Elderly imbibers walked to and fro down the racks of cobwebbed and crusted bottles. John Harvey approached Mrs. Peel.
Which part of Barbados are you from, Mrs. Peel?
Do you know the island, Mr. Harvey?
I have a client who has a tobacco plantation there.
Oh, that'll be the south end of the island.
Yes, I believe it was.
Yes, I was at the north, among the non-smokers.
Oh, Mrs. Peel, good evening. Sparkling, refreshing, about a little on the frivolous side.
I am?
The wine, this Veuve de Velay. Would you like to try some?
Thank you. You know, I've got mixed feelings, Steed. Venerable yet devious. Ambivalent. It's not clear to me.
And the wine?
No, the Boardmans. Everyone's friendly enough, but I get the feeling we're not trusted. Do you know what I mean?
I certainly do. I haven't really been trusted since Eton.
Steed, I'd like you to try this.
Oh, only if you'll do first service to me. Try this one.
Yeah, of course. An old friend, but not at his best. That 2.59.
10 out of 10.
Now, you tell me all about this.
Served on a silver tray, eh? I think you're trying to trap me.
Trap you? Now, why should I want to do that? Now, come along, taste it.
Steed lifted the glass, sniffed the wine, and allowed it to touch his lips.
I think we have him, John.
Well, Mr. Steed, your opinion?
Well, it's either a 65 Algerian red, or it's a Chateau Lafite Rothschild.
Yeah, that's better. But what year, Mr. Steed?
It's an old bouquet. Old, very old.
As though seeking back in the memory of time, Steed reached automatically in his pocket for his old Hunter watch. He said, looking at the time,
Pre-1418 war, rare vintage. Pre-1914 and yet no earlier than 1880.
Yeah, well, that still leaves you 34 years to play with, eh? Well?
1908?
Boardman looked pleased.
Would not be the year, no. 1909 from the northern end of the vineyard.
Yeah. Remarkable, Steed.
You have an extraordinary palate, Mr. Steed, for a... what is it you do?
Taste wines, what else?
You must have spent years in France.
No, merely an extended leave in Bordeaux. Guest of a former Minister of Agriculture. It rained non-stop. This left us time to enthuse over the achievements of his cellar rather than speculate on the uncertainties of the harvest. End of story.
I see.
I hope when the time comes you'll be equally forthcoming. Do you mind if I pass on? I am enjoying this. See you.
What Steed didn't know was that the whole scene in the cellar was being reflected upon a closed-circuit TV screen in a workshop not far away. A white-coated worker, Fitch, the resident genius of Warner's answering service, watched Steed at his wine-tasting triumph. When it came to the part where Steed consulted his gold watch, Fitch grinned and opened a drawer. He reached in and rummaged about until he extracted a Hunter watch identical to Steed's.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly the same.
Fitch took up a long, thin blade and opened the back of the watch.
Should be easy. Dead easy.
Don't like that word dead, Steed. Better watch that watch. In the Boardman's parlour, Emma Peel was learning from John Harvey a little more about the art of big business investment.
Investment's not only a question of what to buy, Mrs. Peel, it's a question of when.
Buy when they're friendless. Isn't that what they say?
That's quite right, but who can tell when that is? Oh, excuse me. Yes?
Mr. Harvey, Mr. Warner to see you. Says from the answering service he has a parcel for you.
Oh, yes, that's right. Show him in, please. I won't be a moment, Mrs. Peel.
Harvey got up and walked the length of the long parlour. Mrs. Peel leant back in her chair, concealed from the door, and watched as Warner entered.
Good afternoon. I was on my way. I've another 2 calls to make, so I thought I'd drop this in. It's all there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Warner. Very kind of you.
Warner left, and Harvey came back to the desk carrying a parcel.
A consignment of new securities?
No, just a line Henry's trying to push amongst his friends, hoping they'll become interested and invest in the company. Oh, here, I'll show you. You may be interested.
Harvey tipped the contents of the parcel out onto the desk. They were the bleeper type of transistor receiver.
Oh, yes, I've seen these in work at hospitals. Ingenious.
Ready for some tea, Mrs. Peel?
Oh, what a nice idea. Thank you.
This way, then. Come along, John.
Thanks.
Time for tea.
Mrs. Peel followed the 2 men into the other office. The door closed. A few moments later, Ruth Boardman entered the parlor cautiously. She walked up to the desk, ignored the bleepers, and searched amongst the wrapping paper. Eventually, she found what she was looking for. She unfolded the tissue paper.
Here it is. A gold hunter watch. The replica of John Steed.
Later that night in his flat, John Steed was setting his watch to the chimes of Big Ben. Having done this, he carefully arranged his tie. Standing in front of the mirror with the contents of his pocket on the occasional table, he checked.
Change. Keys. Handkerchief. Doorbell. Coming! Oh, Mrs. Boardman. And looking like someone straight off the Champs-Élysées.
Thank you, Mr. Steed. May I come in?
Please do.
Your apartment is much as I imagined it.
The very fact that you imagined it at all intrigues me.
I have come to thank you for your tact. The fact that you saw me lunching with a younger man. But you see, when your husband is so many years older than you are...
Oh, I understand.
The fact that you are even seen with a well-known, almost infamous character like Ben Jago, well, it could easily be misunderstood, misinterpreted.
Mrs. Boardman moved to the table that contained Steed's things.
Oh, think nothing of it, Mrs. Boardman. You're a merchant banker's wife. Mr. Jago is an investor. It seems a perfectly natural liaison.
As I said, you are very tactful.
Oh, not tactful. Optimistic. You see, I always admire a woman with a past.
What is optimistic about it?
Well, just the hope that history can be persuaded to repeat itself.
I think you'd better offer me a drink, don't you, John?
Of course. Make yourself at home, Ruth.
And give her a heaven-sent opportunity to switch those watches. Not very bright tonight, Steed, are you?
And with a final heave on the spanner, Ronnie Miller finishes changing his flat tire in just 6 minutes, 32 seconds. Well done, Ronnie. You play any other sports?
I wash the car once in a while.
You look very fresh, Ronnie. What deodorant do you use?
Shield for Sportsmen, of course.
Why?
It works.
Shield for Sportsmen deodorant won't stick, sting, or stain. In aerosol or roll-on, it's made to keep sportsmen cool and dry. Think what it can do for you.
There's no dirt that can stand up to the cleaning power of cold water Omo.
If you use cold water, Omo comes out very, very easily indeed.
Says Mrs. Sutherland of the Innican. Once an Omo user, always an Omo user. It cleans best.
The Avengers.
Listen every evening, Monday to Friday, to John Steed and Emma Peel, The Avengers, brought to you by the makers of Cold Water Omo.
Now, from the makers of Cold Water Omo...
Mrs. Ruth Boardman took a quick glance round John Steed's apartment. She noted the things lying on the occasional table. Change, keys, fountain pen, and Steed's gold hunter watch.
I came to thank you for your tact. I know you saw me lunching with Ben Jago in the Bull and Bear. The fact is that when your husband is so many years older than you are...
Oh, I understand.
A well-known, even infamous character like Ben Jago, it could be misunderstood, misinterpreted.
Think nothing of it, Mrs. Boardman. You're a merchant banker's wife. Mr. Jago is an investor. It seems a perfectly natural liaison.
As I said, you are very tactful.
Well, not tactful, optimistic. You see, I always admire a woman with a past.
What is so optimistic about it?
Just the hope that history can be persuaded to repeat itself.
I think you'd better offer me a drink. Don't you, John?
Of course. Make yourself at home, Ruth.
Steed moved off to get some drinks, and Mrs. Boardman glided over to the table, opened her handbag, and took out a gold hunter watch, which she exchanged for John Steed's. By the time Steed returned with the drinks tray, she was seated on the settee, smiling, quite innocently.
The Avengers.
John Steed and Emma Peel, The Avengers.
Softness is a thing called comfort.
Comfort is the wonderful new fabric conditioner that not only softens but actually rinses out hardness, rinses in a new kind of softness. Comfort leaves your wash refreshingly young and bouncy again. Just a little comfort in the final rinse gives a lot of comfort to your wash.
Softness is a thing called comfort.
Walls Ice Cream presents the new Pink Pussycat song.
We've got strawberry and vanilla, half and half. That's on inside. White milky chocolate the way you like. All over the outside. Where walls pink pussycat now.
Episode 5 of this story, in which John Steed and Emma Peel both get a little nearer to the truth and find out the man who knows how to dial a deadly number. To all outward appearances, John Steed was content to allow his relationship with Henry Boardman, the merchant banker, to continue in a spirit of friendly competition. Boardman had recognized that Steed knew wines and was able to name most of the rare ones by taste. Steed also respected Boardman as a tough, conservative banker of the old school. But Steed wasn't sure how much Boardman was implicated in the deaths of 6 company chairmen. It looked as though Steed was going to sit back and let things work themselves out. He had a date with Mrs. Peel in the Bull and Bear that night, and dressed for it leisurely after Mrs. Boardman had left. But Mrs. Peel wasn't so casual. She was sure there was far more to learn from the premises of Warner's answering service, and she chose the cover of darkness to get into the building.
The workshop, all right. Kinky one, too.
Mrs. Peel found herself in Fitch's workshop, which was lined with clocks, but none of them going. A large TV screen dominated the workbench, plenty of papers stacked around, and a series of photographs. Mrs. Peel flipped through them.
One of Steed. One of Steed. A blown-up photograph of Steed with a wine glass in his hand and his gold watch in the other one. Oh, when could this have been taken? Got it. That wine-tasting party in Boardman's cellar. A close-up of Steed's watch. Oh, this must have been taken from that TV screen and then enlarged. But why?
Well. Interesting, isn't it? Don't move. I've a revolver at your head.
Fitch, Steed's watch.
You've done something to Steed's watch.
Next time he opens it, it'll be the last time he opens it. He'll press the cover, which protects the face of the watch. The cover will spring open, and that'll be that. Do you like my workshop?
I neither like it nor understand it.
My clocks are on the walls. Each one represents a person. This one I shall dedicate to John Steed. It's pretty, isn't it? I shall wind it up later and stop it as soon as Steed is dead. At the exact moment he dies. It'll be a sort of monument to him. And to my ingenuity, of course. You see, for most people, life is ruled by time. They are, you know, except for me. I rule time. And time, the time that's allotted to Steed, is limited. Strictly limited. Like all these other clocks. That one's Todhunter's. That one's Ewell's.
And 5 others? All those company chairmen?
Yes, of course. One doesn't get so much opportunity in peacetime. The war now. That was my bumper harvest. 8 panzer officers in one night. 8. And an Italian captain. That's his clock. There. 3:45 in the morning. It's 3:45 a.m. Now, if promotion could have been won through that sort of pleasure, he would have been a field marshal. They were happy days.
You're quite a dealer in death, aren't you, Mr. Fitch?
Dealer in death. I like that. But now,
What's wrong? Losing your nerve?
I've never killed a woman before. Silly to be so squeamish. I'll use something subtle. Perhaps an ultrasonic injection. They don't even perforate the skin. Or a tasteless poison. It's an old favourite of mine. But it must be neat, clean, and quick. Oh, yes, I must have my murders neat. That's most essential. So don't worry too much. You'll hardly feel a thing. I promise you.
In the bar of the Bull and Bear, a waiter served John Steed with a balloon glass of brandy and removed the empty one.
You sure there haven't been any messages?
No messages, Mr. Steed.
You've checked?
I've double-checked.
No lady named Mrs. Peel?
No, sir, no one of that name.
Steed slipped a hand into his pocket and drew out the watch. But before he could attempt to open it, the waiter said,
It's 9.5, sir. You should get the Wall Street closing prices if you're interested.
Oh, thank you.
Steed slipped the watch back into his waistcoat pocket and sipped his brandy reflectively. Then he took out the watch again and gave it a good, hard look. Catching on, Steed? The lights weren't full on in Henry Boardman's penthouse, just one small table light by an easy chair. There were footsteps outside. The door to the main lounge opened. Ruth Boardman entered, switched on the light.
You. Oh, what are you doing here?
John Steed was sitting in the chair, idly swinging his watch from the end of its chain.
I hope you don't mind my intruding. I told your manservant it would be all right. I thought I'd like to repay your call. You left so abruptly after your drink. Also, I wanted to see your husband.
Henry, he isn't here.
Ruth Boardman's eyes hardly left the watch as Steed continued to swing it to and fro.
Not in? Oh, too bad. It's nothing terribly important. Just I thought I'd drop by and maybe sample another glass of that excellent brandy.
Well, yes, of course.
Mrs. Boardman, is something wrong? You look quite pale.
Mr. Steed, John, I'm very tired.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Where is your husband?
Oh, he's dining out.
And when do you expect him back?
10, 11, I don't know.
Steed started fiddling with the watch again. Eventually he stood up and prepared to open the watch, saying,
10 o'clock, you say, but surely it's nearly that now. Let's see.
No, you mustn't open that.
Mrs. Boardman stepped forward and grabbed Steed's wrist.
No. Do you mind telling me why not, Mrs. Boardman?
Caught her there, all right, didn't you, Steed? Fitch, in his workshop, wound up the clock dedicated to John Steed and placed it on the bench. He then started working on the inside of an antique shepherdess clock. There was a sudden coded ring at the door.
be.
Mr. Fitch, good evening. May I come in? Yes, this is the place, all right. Your name's been recommended to me.
Oh, what for?
I've had some sort of trouble with my watch. A golden hunter watch, you know the model?
What sort of trouble?
Can't seem to open it.
Why not?
The button that releases the gold outer cover is stuck.
Steed reached into his pocket, produced the watch, and swung it to the full length of its chain.
Here, you have a go.
Fitch backed away, a frightened expression on his face.
It might just be stuck. I can't think how it happened. I'm sure if you had a try.
But Fitch continued to retreat. Steed suddenly stopped swinging the watch and caught it neatly with the other hand. He made to press the button that opened the outer cover. Fitch gave a yell.
No!
And dived for cover. Steed pressed the button, and the cover swung open.
A little off-key, wouldn't you say?
At that moment, a loud bumping noise drowned the sound from the watch.
Why don't you come out from behind that workbench and answer the cupboard door? Most inhospitable. Oh, very well.
Steed crossed the floor and unlocked the door of the cupboard. Mrs. Peel fell into the room.
Mrs. Peel. Barbados, 1 minute, room cupboard the next.
Oh, Steed, for heaven's sake, untie my hands.
But before he could do so...
Steed, watch it! Fitch, what's he got?
Bicycle pump gun. Marquis used them during the war.
I invented it, Steed. It's neat and tidy, just as I told you, Mrs. Peel.
Steed looked at Fitch, who was covering them as though he was holding a Sten gun. The clock Fitch had started was nearly at 11 o'clock.
Oh, well done, Major. You got here just in time.
You don't think I'm going to be caught by that old trick?
A clock beginning to strike distracted Fitch. Steed leapt forward and grabbed the pump. Fitch held on grimly, using the pump as a lever. Steed swung Fitch round and crashed him against the wall. The pump gun landed in Fitch's middle and exploded. Fitch's body, thrown back by the explosion, toppled over, crashing all his clocks to the floor. There was silence.
Tempus fugit.
How did you find me? I mean, find out about him.
Ruth Boardman.
Just like that?
Yes, and a modicum of charm, of course. The bleepers. Fitch fixed them all, of course.
Of course. Anyone ringing the right channel caused the bleep and also caused a capillary needle to jump into the heart of the man who was wearing the bleeper. Neat, no fuss.
Neat, no fuss. Yes, that gives me an idea. See you later.
Hey! Hey, where are you going? What about me? Let me loose. Hey, Steed!
Oh, sorry, excuse me. Nearly forgot my umbrella. Bye for now. See you.
Hey, Steed! Come back! Come back, Steed! Come back!
Gosh, Mary, you're lucky to have such a hard-working servant. What do you mean? I haven't got a maid. Well, how on earth do you manage to keep your floors so clean and shiny? Ah, that's easy. I use Dual. Dual? Yes, Dual, the self-shining floor cleaner. It's so easy because Dual cleans and polishes in one go. How do you mean? Well, Dual lifts all the dirt out of the floor and dries to a bright, long-lasting shine, all by itself. So when you use Dual, you don't have to worry about polishing. No, Dual cleans and polishes in one go.
Once an Omo user, always an Omo user, like Mrs. Bodington.
My wash is beautiful, and I'm very proud of it. There's nothing like cold water Omo.
No dirt can stand up to Omo. Over 1 million housewives have proved it. It cleans best.
The Avengers.
Listen every evening, Monday to Friday, to John Steed and Emma Peel, The Avengers. Brought to you by the makers of Cold Water Omo. The Avengers. Donald Monat as John Steed and Diane Appleby as Emma Peel is adapted and directed by Dennis Falbig and produced by David Gooden.
Now, from the makers of Cold Water Omo,
Fitch's body, thrown back by the explosion, toppled over, crashing all his precious clocks to the floor. There was silence.
Tempus fugit.
Steed! Steed, how did you find me? Find out about him?
Ruth Boardman.
Just like that?
Yes, and a modicum of charm, of course. Fitch fixed all the bleepers, of course.
Of course. Anyone ringing the right channel caused the bleep and also caused the capillary needle to jump out into the heart of the man who carried the bleeper. Neat. No fuss.
Neat. No fuss. Yes, that gives me an idea. I'll see you later.
Hey! Hey, what about me? Where are you going, Steed? Come back and untie my hands. Let me loose. Hey!
Oh, sorry, excuse me. Nearly forgot my umbrella. Bye for now. See you later.
Steed! Steed, come back here. You can't leave me like this, Steed.
But Steed had gone. Mrs. Peel sighed, looked down at her hands, and went in search of something sharp with which to cut herself free.
The Avengers.
John Steed and Emma Peel, The Avengers.
Well over 1 million South African housewives are delighted with the sparkling clean wash they get from cold water Omo, like Mrs. Connie Goldie of the Inniken.
Well, I found myself without any hot water one Monday morning. Yes. So I dashed out and I bought a packet of cold water Omo, and I've never been without cold water Omo since.
Yes, once an Omo user, always an Omo user. Omo cleans best. Over 1 million South African housewives have proved it.
Lux is the beauty soap chosen by beautiful film stars around the world. They choose Lux for its rich, moisturizing lather. Lux, a beauty treatment as you bathe.
Episode 6, the final episode in this story, in which John Steed and Emma Peel solve all the mysteries in the affairs of the big city financiers without having to dial a deadly number. In their own ways, John Steed and Mrs. Peel had both found out who it was who'd invented the unique method of killing by using the transistor bleepers. He was Fitch, the mechanical genius of Warner's answering service. They'd all met up in Fitch's workshop, where Mrs. Peel was being held prisoner. Fitch had attacked Steed with another of his inventions, a nasty, lethal pump gun. And in the ensuing struggle, the gun had gone off and Fitch was killed. Steed was glad he was out of the way, but what about the brains behind it all? Leaving Mrs. Peel to take care of herself, Steed took a taxi to think things out.
Warner owns Warner's answering service. And there's Henry Boardman, the merchant banker, losing ground in business and already lost his wife. John Harvey, Boardman's partner. And, of course, Ben Jago, the unscrupulous financier. One of them, or all of them? I'll have to find out. Well, first find your pigeons and then put a cat amongst them.
For the next few hours, Steed worked quite hard, visiting people who didn't know they were visited. Next morning, Warner entered his office and changed into his working coat. There was a bulge in the top pocket.
What the devil? Who the devil put this here?
Warner, with a puzzled air, discarded the bleeper. In his penthouse, Henry Boardman was finishing breakfast. He removed his glasses and went to place them in the top pocket of his jacket.
What's this? It's an extraordinary thing.
Boardman placed the bleeper he'd found in his pocket on the breakfast table with an air of genuine amazement. Later, in the Boardman parlour, John Harvey seated himself at his desk and pulled a rose out of the bowl in front of him. He was about to thread it into his buttonhole when he spotted the bleeper in his pocket.
Ah! Somebody having a joke. Or is this a trick?
He ripped the bleeper from his pocket and threw it on the desk in a fury. Much later, in the bar of the Bull and Bear, Ben Jago sat reading a newspaper and sipping a glass of wine. He spilled some and reached for a pocket handkerchief and found the bleeper.
So, I'm the next one to be got rid of, am I? Well, we'll soon see about that.
Jago got up and, without waiting to finish his wine, left the bar. As you say, Steed, cat among the pigeons, all right. Later, Henry Boardman was searching John Harvey's desk, pulling papers out of drawers indiscriminately. Harvey's voice on a dictaphone played back all the time.
The case for long-term equity investment has never been stronger. Inflation is as much a part of our life as the bread and butter. Each year, the purchasing power of the pound grows weaker. Alternative forms of investment do not counteract the erosion in value of invested capital. And that's the end of tape one.
All right, Harvey, stay right where you are in that chair, nice and still.
Jago. So you're in this too. And you're armed, I see.
Where's Harvey? I thought he...
I don't know. I took the opportunity while he was out of searching this desk. There's nothing here, nothing on the dictaphone tapes to incriminate him either. But I know the truth. I can't believe it. Using this bank, Boardman's, as a cover for murder. Fraud.
How did you find out?
Ruth told me. She broke down after a visit from that man, John Steed. She told me it was all Harvey's doing. She didn't mention you. But of course, I should have realized that you were in it. All your lucky investments.
I wanted to cut you in.
Now, you flatter me, thinking I was that sort of a man. Now, what happens now?
Every man has his price. What's yours?
I'm too old to turn crooked. I leave that to the younger, frustrated people. Like my wife.
Then that means we shall have to part company, doesn't it?
Henry! Ben, what are you doing?
You can see exactly what he's doing, Ruth. He's about to add another murder to his list of crimes.
No, Ben!
That's all you're doing. If you'd kept your mouth shut.
But Steed knows there's only one thing to do. Get out!
And leave your worthy husband to betray us both, oh no.
Ben, put that gun down. Put it down.
Out of my way. Stand away from him, do you hear me?
No!
John Steed and Emma Peel, visiting the Boardman offices later, found ample evidence of Jago's visit.
I think the term is foul play, Mrs. Peel.
Blood. The point is, whose?
Well, my guess is Boardman's. Now, if you wanted to hide a body or bodies in this place, what spot would you choose?
Something nasty in the wine cellar, Steed?
Shouldn't be surprised, Mrs. Peel. Shouldn't be surprised at all. Only one way to find out, isn't there?
And down in the wine cellar, Jago and Harvey confronted each other.
I had to do it. I didn't intend to shoot her, just to silence him. She interfered. I thought when I found that bleeper in my pocket that you...
You decided to get rid of you, too, huh? It might not have been a bad idea at that. No, not guilty.
But somebody planted it on me.
Someone planted one on me as well. There's no prize for the answer.
John Steed.
Somebody mentioned my name.
Steed.
Welcome to the gathering, Steed. The proverbial bad penny.
Well, it was the Chateau Rothschild. I just couldn't stay away.
Steed, how did you know?
About wines? Oh, I was weaned on Chablis. Wine's become a habit ever since.
It's a pity. One shouldn't overindulge in the good things of life.
Such as company chairman, for instance?
What are we going to do?
Quiet, Jago. Oh, you do know my colleague, don't you?
Mr. Jago, the king of the option market. Oh, yes. Pity about Ruth Boardman, Jago. She was a fascinating woman in many ways.
You're becoming an awful nuisance, Steed.
Well, I do my best to oblige.
Men of integrity need careful handling.
Oh, every time.
But in the final analysis, everyone is corruptible.
You think so? Henry Boardman wasn't. But then perhaps Jago didn't offer him the correct incentives.
Maybe not. Everyone, I think, has their price.
Don't try it, Harvey. It won't work.
I can handle it. I've handled everything else.
Well, rather badly, if I may be allowed to say so.
What?
But while we're talking and not drinking, can't I...
Stay where you are.
Steed turned, as though surprised, to find himself looking down the wrong end of a revolver. Jago's finger tightened over the trigger. Mrs. Peel, who was standing behind some wine casks, thought it about time to join the action. She rolled a barrel into the back of Jago's leg. The cask caught Jago under the knees and knocked him over. The gun fell to the ground. Harvey dived for it, got to it before Steed. Steed dodged behind the wine racks.
Don't let them reach the door, Jago.
Go this way. I'll take the other side. Can't get out. Cut off their way to the door. Right.
The two men moved cautiously forward. Mrs. Peel tripped over an empty bottle.
What a waste.
Steed seized a magnum of champagne by its neck.
That's about the right weight.
Jago crept forward. Steed waited, and then hit him.
Didn't even break. Good year.
Mrs. Peel was tackling Harvey and was at a decided disadvantage.
Can only have one bullet left. That's if I can still count. Here goes. No more danger.
Mrs. Peel leapt forward. Harvey swung round and fired. Several times on empty chambers. Mrs. Peel closed in, gripped him. Mrs. Peel got a good hold, threw Harvey over the cask.
Well thrown, Mrs. Peel. Care to share a glass of champagne?
Well, it has been thirsty work.
Now, let me choose wisely.
No.
Watch it, Steed. Jago's coming too.
Steed, who had been opening the champagne, turned the bottle on Jago.
Here, old chap, try this. Bit on the dry side, but a very adaptable wine. Finish him off, Mrs. Peel, then we'll finish this.
Later, in a taxi, going home.
I make no apology for helping myself to a crate or two. Here. Tell me, what do you think of it?
A claret with unusual body.
Eh?
The Bordeaux district.
You amaze me. You're right.
A little village at Saint-Péréon. This would be from the De Vere vineyard. Mérion-Saint-Clair. Let's see. 1931.
Fantastic. Emma, my dear, how do you do it?
I read the label on the bottle.
Shield gives a confidence that actually shows.
In your eyes.
Put on Shield deodorant and it's dry in seconds. That's the way it stays right through the day. Shield never makes you feel sticky. It just protects you and keeps you dry, feminine, fresh. Wear Shield, and the only thing you show is confidence.
Shield gives a confidence that actually shows.
In your eyes. In your eyes.
The cleaning power of cold water Omo gives you the superb cleanness you want from a washing powder. Listen to Mrs. Baxter of Claremont.
It really is good, you know. I mean, it's unbelievable, really, that it could be so good, you know.
Once an Omo user, always an Omo user.
The Avengers.
Listen every evening, Monday to Friday, to John Steed and Emma Peel, The Avengers, brought to you by the makers of Cold Water Omo.